I'm very bullish on VJ Edgecombe. One person who's not bullish on VJ Edgecombe, it appears, is Joe DeCamara, because Joe DeCamara went on the radio today and unleashed an absolutely garbaggio take. But I am going to hit you with it right now because, in the interest of fairness, we haven't gone to one of the radio people in a while. I want to hear what Joe DeCamara had to say today over on WIP's morning show about VJ Edgecombe. You know, a rookie who's really stood out and kind of put the league on notice, looks significantly better than I think any of us thought he would as the number 3 overall pick in the draft. Let's go out to let's go out to Joe DeCamara. What do you think about Edgecombe?
This question. Edgecombe hasn't really come close to duplicating night one much at all.
No shit! That can't be real. You can't. Oh my God. How is that like a, oh, let me just throw this out there. He hasn't looked like the guy from opening up. Let's just real quick. Can I ask a question?
Edgecombe hasn't really come close to duplicating night one much at all.
They're playing him too much.
It's not really a question, but okay. I'll sustain. Edgecombe right now is averaging 16.3 points on the season. He's averaging 5.8 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game. None of those league-wide are going to jump off the page. So he mentions this thing about how Edgecombe hasn't really impressed like he did on opening night. I just want you to go back to the unprecedented nature of VJ Edgecombe's NBA debut. He scored the second most points of a player since I think the merger, right? He had the second most points for a player debuting for their team. All time. He had 34 points as a rookie in his first game. He followed that up with a 15-point game against Charlotte, 26 points against the Magic, 14 points against Washington, 17 points against Boston, 16 against Brooklyn, 12 against Chicago in a loss. That was not a great game, right? Only 7 points against Cleveland. Had a rough night from the field. 3 of 14, 0 of 5 from beyond the arc. 11 points against Toronto, 11 points against Detroit. Has he been as impressive as he was on opening night? Of course not. Did anybody expect him to be a 34-point per game guy as a rookie? Did I miss something? All right, let's just continue.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm surprised, Ray. He's supposed to have young legs. Like, he's been kind of pedestrian lately, right?
Yeah, but the NBA is a bit of a different animal.
Thank you, Ray.
In terms of, the amount of games
know,
and travel and all that. I just, I think that, when you're playing one way when Joel is in and a different way when he's not in.
It's true.
James, is it that simple, or was he just making shots game one?
Look, I think is he going to score 34 points every game? Like, he's a 20-year-old kid in the NBA. I didn't expect him. I don't expect him to average 20-plus points a game or whatever. Like, he's the third scoring option on the team. You know what I mean? Maybe fourth after Oubre, like in terms of what they're looking for. So I think that was the anomaly from a scoring perspective. I just want to see him develop as the season goes on.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm glad that everybody else on the show seems to agree. That's insane. Like, we need to level set. I don't want to go back to the Flyers thing. We talked about the Flyers thing a lot today. But, like, there are just very unrealistic expectations that people have for specific players. I get that, like, Philly sports has been a hellscape outside of the Eagles for the most part of, like, a decade plus. I get it. I get that, like, you can have a run to the World Series from the Phillies and then, like, watch the bats just go cold, and that just feels like you're getting pummeled over the head with a bat repeatedly. I get the fact that, like, Philadelphia Union fans will forever have that horrible blown assignment by Mbaizo at the far post where Gareth Bale, header, MLS Cup, they lose in PKs, and there were a lot of shortcomings in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. Like, I get it. Union fans are scarred. Sixers fans are used to being scarred because navicular bone break, back injuries, orbital bone fractures, all to Joel Embiid, thoracic outlet syndrome, which we'd never heard of with Markelle Fultz. Ben Simmons maybe shooting with the wrong hand. Ben Simmons with the back. Ben Simmons with the weird pass under the hoop against the Hawks. So you are forever scarred there. I get it. The Flyers have been largely irrelevant since the 2010 miracle run to the Cup. I get it. But there is an unfair amount of criticism being levied by some media, by some fans. And like, you finally, with some of these teams at least, have young guys that are producing well, and you are putting horribly unrealistic expectations on those guys at a very critical early juncture in their respective careers, and it needs to stop. There were people lighting themselves on fire at the beginning of this season for the Flyers because Matvei-Michkov didn't look like he was going to take the next step and become a 40-goal scorer as a 20-year-old second-year player in his second professional season in North America. They were ready to light themselves on fire. VJ Edgecombe sets an incredible record, like goes down as like in the history books, along with like Wilt freaking Chamberlain for most points in a debut for his team. And like, he's had a few games where he's not shot well from beyond the arc. He had 2 games where over the course of those 2 games, he went 0 for 9 from downtown. Coming into the NBA, coming into the draft, Edgecombe didn't have a 3-point shot to really speak about. He certainly wasn't consistent. And here we are. He's played really well. He looks like a bona fide star in the making. There are clips circulating about him and word this weekend where like he pulled off a move that legitimately, and I don't mean this in a hyperbolic way, legitimately looked like a move that Dwayne Wade made famous. There are elements of his game that give you all the feels of Jimmy Butler and some that give you the feels of like Anthony Edwards. There is a legitimate star in the making in VJ Edgecombe. You have a guy who like has taken yet another step into potential superstardom in Tyrese Maxey. And you can't even like just sit back and enjoy the ride that those two especially are taking you on at this point in the season. Because we have to find a negative. We have to find a negative to latch on to either as a fan base or as media. Can we just, for once, try to enjoy having something nice, just one time in some of you out there who only have to latch on a negative? Can you, for one time in your godforsaken life, just enjoy the ride? One time. That's all I'm asking for. One time. Can we not put unrealistic expectations on a rookie or on a second-year player and just let them live and just let them play and figure it out? Can we try that one time? Just one time. That would be great. I feel like I'm losing it. I do. I feel like at some point, everybody's just like, either everybody else is going crazy or it's me. But I look at Edgecombe and I go, that is an incredible player in the making. Tyrese Maxey looks like a legitimate superstar guard. Focus on that. Don't worry about whether or not Joel Embiid's going to fall apart or not. Don't worry about whether or not the team doesn't play the same way when Joel Embiid's on the court. Very clearly, they can't go into a track meet with Joel Embiid. They can't. They are going to play stylistically different. I will also remind you, in case you've gotten lost, dazed, confused, concussed, whatever, the track meet style doesn't work in the NBA playoffs. It doesn't. Mike D'Antoni coached some of the most electric Phoenix Suns teams with some of the most electric offensive numbers you will ever see in your lifetime. They didn't win jack diddly squat in the playoffs because inevitably you will run across a team that is going to play physically and a team that is going to make you execute a half-court offense. So I could make the case right now that the track meet style that the Sixers like to play without Embiid is lovely. You can score a lot of points. It's wide open. You might give up a lot of points. But if this team is going to have a modicum of respect in this league as a half-court offense, eventually they're going to have to incorporate Joel Embiid. Eventually they're going to have to reincorporate Paul George. And in order for this team to reach its ceiling, they're going to have some combination of Joel Embiid and Paul George playing well enough. And ideally, they would defer to Maxey and they would defer to Edgecombe, and you'd feel good about the future and also be thrilled with the fact that you have a guy who probably will be able to execute at a high enough level in Paul George, and a guy that you know can be an absolute menace on the low block if he decides to in Joel Embiid. Like, think of it like this. I mean, just one more place. Or just one more thing real quick. The NBA right now, the way that the salary cap is kind of structured, right? You can become a really good team, but once you hit a certain level and you have to start paying your own players, it becomes very, very difficult for you to change your roster in a meaningful way. Cleveland is largely unchanged. Whatever Cleveland has right now is very similar to what they finished with last year and is what they will go into the playoffs with. It ain't going to change that much. They don't really have the flexibility to be able to like add a Paul George right now. And you can laugh about the health and everything, but like a consistent Paul George would be a real help to that Cleveland team if they're going to try to win an NBA Finals. The Sixers are in this weird position where like, yeah, Tyrese Maxey just got a max deal and he deserved it and he earned it. But like realistically, you have Maxey, Edgecombe, McCain, Grimes. You have incredible backcourt depth. And you are not, right? You don't technically have a ton of flexibility. If they wanted to, there might be a team out there that's willing to make a cap move and take Paul George. But realistically, this team is good enough to potentially be a bottom half, bottom seed playoff team in the Eastern Conference right now without Paul George, without Joel Embiid. And at some point, they could maybe even add a somewhat respectable Paul George and a better than somewhat respectable Joel Embiid without having to pay another dime. Those guys are already accounted for and they're already on the team. Like, this team actually has the chance to, like, do something. I would actually, okay, I'm going to try not to get hyperbolic, but I'm getting worked up. This Sixers team right now in this Eastern Conference, an Eastern Conference that has a Bucks team that I don't fear, a Heat team that I don't fear, a Pistons and a Cavaliers squad that I genuinely don't fear, and a Boston team that probably will not have Jason Tatum until it's kind of too late, unless they're going to be the team who like is a very low seed and pulls off a first round upset. I could make the argument right now, this Sixers team might be in better position to go farther into the playoffs if Embiid and Paul George are even remotely healthy in the playoffs. They might have a better chance of going farther in the playoffs than the year they lost on the multi-bounce shot to Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors. There is a legitimate path. This Eastern Conference isn't very good. I don't care what the records look like. That Pistons team does not scare me in 7 games. That Cavs team does not scare me in 7 games. The Knicks are a good team. That would be a tough series. The Celtics, if they get Jason Tatum back and don't change that roster, that would scare me. But man, it feels open. It feels more open than it has. There is a more easy path, I would say, a more easy to vision path to going farther in the playoffs this year. And I would say, in an interesting turn of events, it's because Joel Embiid doesn't have to be your number one option. And I've been on the record as saying, it is very difficult to win in this league playing through your center and the kind of center that Joel Embiid is. It is very difficult to win in this league with him being your number one option. Right now, he doesn't have to be. And if they can eventually, over the next 50 games, 60 games, if they can turn VJ Edgecombe into the closer, or they can give that snarl and that cold-blooded killer mentality to Tyrese Maxey late in games and turn him into the closer, that will be a better overall scenario than any of the years that Joel Embiid has had to be the guy with the ball in his hands late in a game. And that is the truth. Some people might not like that, but that is the truth. This team will be better off if Edgecombe or Maxey are the closer than the years that Embiid has had to be the guy with the ball in his hands late in a game. And I trust that Maxey and eventually Edgecombe will be more sure-handed with the ball late in games and will make a better, higher quality decision late in games. To me right now, if I were Nick Nurse, my focus is how do I make Tyrese Maxey the most dangerous end-of-game guard in this league? If you figure it out, you will make the conference final. If you can get him to that headspace and get that execution, there is not a single player in this Eastern Conference that I would fear more as a guy who could slash and get to the rim like that than Tyrese Maxey. He has that step back three. He has the ability to hit a floater. He has a ton of tools in his toolbox. He has solid vision, great playmaking ability. There is no one I'd rather trust with ball in their hands at the end of a game on this Sixers team than Tyrese Maxey. If they can get to that point, they will reach, heights that I think they haven't seen in a while. That's where I'm at. I could be wrong. Clip this, come back to me at the end of the year. I tend to think that the Sixers are actually in better shape than some people think they are.